You know, it amazes me, though, that it has to be a hard sell, that you have to somehow entice parents to come to the school and get involved and participate in the various functions. I think this is a societal problem, not just here on Long Island, I think throughout the nation, that the relationship between parents, their children, and the schools have changed. My father worked 3 jobs, you know, so working several jobs has nothing to do with it as far as I'm concerned. And yet and still, my grades had better be what they should be, and my behavior had better be at a certain level as well. So we did it in the past. I guess the question is now, what's changed? What has changed? They're not to say that all parents have lost sight. Clearly, that's not the case. Right. But there are certainly more parents who have viewed the role of education very differently than they ever have previously, and I don't believe it's a very good thing.
Dr. Clark, what's changed?
I think your analysis kind of touched on the tip of the iceberg. I said that the schools have become adversarial. You have to understand that. You talked about attendance at PTA meetings, attendance at budget hearings, etc. For a lot of people, that represents the one opportunity for them to be cathartic, to come to a school board meeting and just unwind, all right? It's the general perception, and I say that cautiously, it is a general perception that education, when I came along, education was the vehicle by which one moved from point A to point B. It was drummed into my head every day by my grandmother, who went to the 3rd grade, that you must get an education because education represents the key to your success. Now, that value, without getting into family values and all of that, that value has become compromised because, especially in our community, and I talk about my community, especially in our community, it ain't true anymore. You see, education no longer is that access out of the inner city or whatever you want to call it, to the pockets of success in this country. You want to attribute it to racism. There are a variety of factors that interact and cause that kind of situation. Now, what do we do about it? Yeah, I go along with what Bob said. I argue with my wife about that all the time. Parents are no longer like when we came along. So there is that manifest need for that surrogate type of situation. Now, how do you evolve that kind of program in a community that, one, that feels neglected, 2, that's adversarial, 3, our communities are intoxicated with all of the social pathologies, right? When we complain to the so-called system in terms of giving us help, trying to effectuate a change in that, you get this kind of apathy. That apathy is then internalized by that community and revealed across the board. Not only that, we don't vote, we don't register to vote, but we're very, very vociferous in terms of criticizing the things that happen in our community because we're not involved and we don't go to the polls so that our so-called political leaders can say, hey, look, I had 4,000 or 5,000 people out of my community that vote. That's how you compromise the system. Now, that's an education program, but it's more than just being educational. It requires the whole panorama of resources that are available in our communities to give us a hand. And I'm not talking about these failed social programs that you just create a job for someone. I'm talking about people working together in a community with adequate resources to interface with the schools and the other institutions. The school, I'm not just beating up on the schools as an isolate, you know, that caused the pathology that's rampant in our community. You guys don't want to look at it like that.